Hi, welcoming you to another episode of Real English Conversations. Today's conversation is about some of the differences between American and British English usage when it comes to telling time. This conversation also marks the first appearance of my very own mom here on Better in English. She gives us her perspective on American usage, while my English friend Michael, whom you know from earlier podcasts, returns this episode to cover the British point of view. This episode follows directly from the previous episode, number 44, so if this is your first time listening to our podcast, you should go back and listen to episode 44 first, otherwise you might not understand what we're talking about. The PDF that goes with this episode contains the full transcript, the vocabulary list, the image of clocks that I used to elicit time expressions from my mom and Michael, and some usage notes about time expressions in British and American English. Whew, I think that's enough introduction for today. Let's get on with the conversation. In this informal language experiment, I showed my mom a picture of 4 clock faces and asked her to read me the times. This was to see what prepositions she would use, particularly if she would avoid the preposition past, as Yvette's former teachers claimed Americans do. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Okay. Perfect. You scored 100%. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now this is very interesting because you are a Native American speaker and you haven't had, I doubt you've had much exposure to British English, and you've definitely not ever had to teach English using British English materials or anything like that. Yeah, the problem is that sometimes when non-native speakers are learning English, teachers will tell them misguided rules that they maybe read in some outdated book somewhere, saying things like, in American English, you have to use after when you talk about time. You can't use past. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I think as well, that I maybe naturally I'd be more likely to say after, but I wouldn't think it was weird or strange if someone said past. Okay. Okay, that's great. And that's really just the point that I wanted to make, that often. Hmm? Right, right. 12:30, definitely. Yeah, you wouldn't say half after 12. Yeah. And the interesting thing is I used analog clocks on purpose because I was worried that if I just wrote the times in digital time, you would have said, for example, 7:25. Now, yeah, exactly. So, so anyway, that was my little experiment. I'll just After doing the experiment with my mom, I went on and did the same experiment with Michael to get the British perspective. And read the times that you see on the
Okay.
clocks.
Yeah, it's 9:10.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the top left. The top right is 7:25.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom left, 6:05.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom right one is 12:15.
Okay, cool. You've also scored 100%. You can tell time
Yay!
on the
Yay!
analog clock.
Go.
And the reason that I asked you to do this is because I had a discussion with Yvette the other day, And she remembered learning when she was studying English. She's
Yeah.
had both been exposed to people, trying to teach her British English and American English. And she somehow was told that if you're going to speak British English, you have to say past, just like you
Right.
just did, like it's 10 past
It's
6.
it's true as well. I can tell you that I mean she's absolutely right. I mean never
Uh-huh.
mind the experimenting. That is how we're taught. And
Uh-huh.
I had never heard anybody say 10 after 3 or something like that until I met an American person. That
Okay, okay. But did you still understand it the first time you heard? Did it cause any
Oh,
problems?
it didn't cause any confusion. You say 10, 5 past, 10 past, quarter past, 20 past, 25 past,
Uh-huh.
and when it's around, it's 25 to, 22, quarter to, 10 to, 5 to. But
Right.
I've heard some American people say 10 till.
Oh, yeah, 10 till 6. Yeah, quarter
Um,
till.
you,
Mm.
you never, ever, 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 ever say that in British English. It's always past and it's to, and it's drummed into you.
Okay, that's quite interesting.
There's no variation whatsoever. But people can understand, obviously. I mean, you'd have to be a bit of a dick to,
Mm-hmm.
be being deliberately obtuse if you're going, huh? I don't get it. Because it's obvious to anyone with half a brain, what it means. But it stands out as being unusual because this is, we have these little clocks with the movable hands.
Yeah, analog clocks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in
Yeah,
fact, I was quite cunning when I made the picture to send to you. I used analog clocks on purpose just to elicit the preposition past, because if I had just written the
yeah.
times like in digital format, you probably would have said
Right,
things like,
9, 10, or yeah. But I don't say times like that anyway. I always do it the old-fashioned way,
okay.
even after the advent of digital things, because my dad would belt me if I said it, the digital way. I'd get in trouble, and my parents would yell at me.
Oh, that's funny. Why? What did they ever say? Why they didn't like it?
Yes, they felt it was dumbing things down, and it meant that you wouldn't be learning, you wouldn't know how to tell the time properly, because if you just read it out like that, and I think they had a very good point,
Mm-hmm.
because if if you only knew how to tell the time like that, and then you were at, I don't know, some big train station somewhere where they had an analog clock, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going, let me work out this. It's not so good.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think everyone needs to know how to tell time on an analog clock, but I wouldn't go so far as to force people to use that every time they were talking about time, because I think the
No.
digital system is so established now and it really makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and my parents are total fucking Nazis when it comes to things anyway. I love them, but misguided in the extreme.
You
Uh,
know, I'm gonna have to bleep you out now. We're
Sorry.
not recording for uncensored English. That's all for this time. Of course, in these spontaneous conversations, we can't cover all of the usage issues that apply, and sometimes the examples we come up with on the spot might not be the best from a teaching perspective. So to make up for that, I've added some extra usage notes to the PDF file for this episode. I hope you find them useful. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.